Who doesn't love a spin-off? You've got that one show you really liked, then they make another show about some subsidiary character and tell more stories set in the same universe. Even after the original is gone, the adventures still continue. That's the focus of today's video, the Nithian Remnants. Everybody knows that the Nithian Empire has long been since yeeted from existence. Well, we would know if everybody's memories hadn't been wiped. However, not all the Nithians were deleted. A handful of their culture remained, though nobody realized their true origin. On the plus side, one of them didn't turn up all messed up in the head. On the downside, all the rest of them did. Welcome to Mystara. I'm Mr. Welch, and try to remember not to forget that you forgot. You could argue that of all the dead empires in Mystara, Nithia had the most significant impact on the current world. Blackmoor did indeed blow itself up after taking over the world, but that was thousands of years ago, and entire civilizations have grown up to replace it. Nithia, on the other hand, was only destroyed 1500 years ago, and you can find traces of it scattered across multiple nations. You won't know they're Nithian, but they most certainly are. One significant aspect of the spell that vacuumed up the Nithians into an unnamed dimension is that it altered the memories of anyone who knew of them, so that any building they would find of Nithian origins, they would come up with a plausible story of where the buildings supposedly came from. Now, if you find a Nithian pyramid on the surface, the population living there assumes their ancestors built it, even if it doesn't resemble any other structure from that culture. The biggest location of Nithians in Mystara is the few that were saved in the Hollow World. I did an entire video on them. They kept their highly magical creations, their governmental system, and their habit of trying to overthrow each other. It's the curse of the Hollow World. All cultures are locked into a stasis that preserves them at the moment of their downfall. Meaning most cultures on the verge of collapse from internal strife are still on the brink of collapse. I'm not counting these as a remnant, as they are descendants of the original Nithians who didn't turn evil, and they know they are the original Nithians and have some idea of their history. Hollow World Nithia is just the same people with the bad elements removed, though the memory-affecting magic of the Hollow World makes them believe that they've always been there. These Nithians have no memories of their time on the surface, nor the time when they ruled the entire world. So going back to the surface, the first place to look for Nithians is in Old Nithia. It's the northernmost section of Yalarum. According to the Gazetteer, 17,600 of these individuals still exist and stand out from their neighbors with their unique appearance. The Nithians of today are short, with darker skin than the other Yalari, with sparse, dark, reddish hair. With the exception of the city dwellers, most of them live as bandits, raiding passing caravans before returning to their mountain fortifications. They're obsessed with finding relics and locations from the Ancient Empire and scour their homeland in search of them. The problem is they have no memory of Ancient Nithia. They're looking for treasures that they can only identify by instinct. They occupy ancient settlements and fortresses in places familiar to them, but they don't know why. Here you can find hordes of Nithian-related loot, most of it piled in a room with little regard for its worth and no idea of its purpose. These Nithians are highly religious, but their patron is Thanatos, the immortal who helped them engineer their downfall. They rally around powerful clerics who follow the orders from their patron, who then lead them to the ruins and treasures that they jealously guard. The biggest problem with this remnant is its proximity to the town of Sur-Aman-Ra, which hides the Pearl of Oblivion. This artifact scrubs the mind of anyone approaching of all memories of Old Nithia. Even if one of the current-day Nithians were to find a history of his people, when he got near the city, it would all be erased immediately. With the amount of memory wiping these people have endured over the centuries, it makes sense their brains have become a bit scrambled. While the Nithians are recognized as an emirate, the majority of the population want nothing to do with the Sultan or his laws. The Emir of Nithia has the thankless task of running a domain that can barely feed itself. Its population is openly hostile to him, and the official religion is openly ignored by the inhabitants. The Nithians are organized into warlike tribes, fighting amongst each other and attacking outsiders on sight. Anyone caught excavating a Nithian ruin is a prime target for the locals, making archaeology highly dangerous. No one would recognize these people as the descendants of the ancient, refined, and advanced nation that once occupied this land. But hundreds of years of isolation, war, and mind-wiping will do that to a culture. Next, we head to the most dangerous spot in all of Irendi, White Island, the place that corrupts and maddens anyone who dares to make landfall on it. The island is home to 108 white-haired monks who speak pure gibberish as far as anyone can tell, as not even magic can make sense of their ranting. This island is also populated by numerous gorillas and doves, which are also pure white in color. The island is blockaded by the Irendi Navy, as anyone who reaches the island within hours will lose the ability to speak anything except for the monks' gibberish language, and will join them in their chanting. This island was the site of the principal Nithian occupation, but beyond that, nothing is known about them. Attempts to communicate to the Immortals to find out the secrets of White Island instead receive nightmares and hallucinations that make it clear the mystery of the monks will remain unsolved. The truth behind the island is that when the Immortals destroyed the Empire, the few good-aligned Nithians were spared and transported to a different dimension instead by their patron, Ixion, in his guise of Orisis. No, not Osiris. Yes, that was probably a typo originally, but they made it multiple times, so I'm sticking with Orisis. Ixion convinced the other Immortals that the good Nithians needed an outpost on the Prime Plane to watch out for their kin's return, so White Island was created. The monks are speaking a form of Ancient Nithia, a long-dead language that resists all efforts at translation. When a monk dies, Ixion replaces him with another member of the good Nithians who are sitting in exile. The monks are monitoring for the return of the old empire, with specific instructions on what to do if that happens. These instructions are only known by Ixion and the monks, and not even the other Immortals know of this contingency. The defenses of the island are substantial but not immediately fatal. Instead, the monks rely on the magics placed on their homes to protect them. The white apes are actually shape-shifted druids, which comprise the most powerful of the monks, and they will physically attack anyone trying to harm them. The white doves are harmless and are the reincarnated souls of the monks on the islands. They are said to return to their true form if Ancient Nithia ever returns. The monks can also summon ether weirds. These powerfully otherworldly creatures attack intruders that threaten the monks, being able to detect living creatures and undead. They can drain the life force from living creatures and the magic animating the undead. Their most dangerous power is the ability to instantly flood a victim's mind with all the knowledge of Ancient Nithia. On a failed save, the victim goes insane and joins the monks. On a success, all memories of the visions are wiped clean. A remove curse can remove the insanity, but the longer someone remains with the monks, the more difficult it will be. Eventually, nothing will be able to restore the afflicted's minds, and they will stay with the monks forever. Of all the remnants left, the Thians represent Nithia of old better than anyone else except for the ones in the Hollow World. Granted, they don't remember they were the original Nithians, but they were far enough away from the Isle of Dawn and uncorrupted by Thanatos, so the Immortals decided to spare them. They wiped their minds, of course, but let them remain on the surface and didn't banish them into another dimension like the others. They are your classic ancient Egyptians, with pyramids, a pharaoh, and an unhealthy love of crocodiles. Sexy, sexy crocodiles. The Thians stand alone from the Alphasian Empire, though they are officially part of it, and they have nothing in common. The peasants rarely speak Common, much less Alphasian. They have their own religion, where they honor none of the immortal patrons of the Empire, and are even more detached from supporting Alphasia's interests than that of their archmages. Thians are loyal to Thothia. Their fealty to their empire is mostly lip service. They're taught from an early age that the pharaohs are the true leaders of Thothia, not the empress. The nation honors the Immortals, but organized worship is rare. They revere the pharaohs as part of their religion. Thothia has a strong independent streak compared to other Alphasians. It's like they know they were part of something greater and only now play along with their supposed rulers. They are isolated on the Isle of Dawn, they pay their taxes on time, and they don't bother visiting other lands. The Alphasians who know of them view them as another distant backwater part of the empire. That's the way the pharaoh likes it. They have their own schemes and goals, and eventually they won't need the Alphasians. This doesn't mean Nithia will rise again, but if anybody could do it, it would be the Thians. Several other minor remnants survived the Empire's destruction, but these were primarily locations rather than people. Of note is the Gnoll race, which served as shock troops for the Nithians to spare their own warriors. The race was tasked with serving their masters without question, and when the Nithians vanished, the Gnolls went a little loopy. Many of them still dress in the style of the old Empire, though they don't know why. This isn't true for the entire race. As a whole, they follow the orders of those stronger than them. Gnolls have no memory of Nithia. Most don't even know what it was. But some lingering notions remain. They mimic the trappings of their creators, even though they can't explain why. There is a mention of Nithia in Keramiko, specifically the 2nd edition box set. They apparently built a step pyramid near Threshold, which was later buried over the years. This revelation is not well regarded by Mystaran experts, at least the ones that sit behind computers, because it creates all sorts of continuity snarls. The Keramikans found the pyramid, knew it to be Nithian in origin, and started making all sorts of theories regarding the Empire. The problem is the spell that wiped everyone's memory causes people to assume Nithian ruins are the product of their own culture. The scholars would assume the ruins are the work of the ancient Traldar, not some primitive cave dwellers from northern Yalarum. This bit of Nithian lore is obscure, appearing in the adventure Trouble and Threshold from Kingdom Adventure. So few people know of it, and those that do, just ignore it. If the Nithians left anything to remember them by, it has to be their contribution to the Red Curse, as their experimentation in using magic to augment their troops was corrupted by the Immortals into the Legacies. All those mutations the inhabitants of the Savage Coast are sporting are due to the Nithians messing with the natural order. If you're running an epic campaign to remove the Red Curse, one of the requirements is to find out how the Nithians use their magic to modify people and then reverse the spell. Good luck finding ancient knowledge from a long-dead empire cursed to be forgotten even by its descendants. Those are the Nithian Remnants. For those that will somehow remember this video, you've got several enclaves with varying resemblances to the Old Empire, from bandits to an almost complete version of it. DMs might have some issues trying to work in a Lost Empire cursed with forced amnesia into their games, but as long as you keep your players away from Sur Amon Ra, they can keep investigating the fate of Ancient Nithia. If not, they can always start over. Next week is the Irindi Navy, a naval juggernaut that happens to belong to one of the most peaceful nations in Mystara. Until then, never forget you're in denial.